All right, everybody, welcome. It is a very nice day out here, and I'm planning on recording a normal episode today too, but I think in the meantime, we're gonna try to execute our GoPro episode where I largely show you everything that happens today within reason from my point of view. Obviously, I'll have to cut for like when I have to pee, and I'll have to cut whenever I'm showing something that might give away where I'm at, but otherwise, this is going to be a largely uncut episode, as uncut as I can possibly make it, without giving away where I'm at today, or otherwise showing you something you don't want to see. So, this is a very difficult habitat we're working today. I think there's a good chance we won't see very much, but there is a chance that if we do see something, it'll be something pretty cool. I'm also gonna have to cut whenever I look at my map, because that also gives away where I'm at. And it's gonna be pretty hard to do a 6+ mile hike today through habitat I've never really been to without looking at my map. So a lot of the times I'm cutting, I'll probably either be peeing or looking at my map. I'll also be doing things such as picking wedgies off camera. You know, normal things that most people don't want to see. But the goal is for this to be like a multiple hour-long episode for people who enjoy that kind of thing. You get to hear all the birds, you get to see all the sights. You probably get to see me fall down the hill a couple times, if today's anything like most days in the field. Especially in this steep habitat, I'll probably stumble quite a few times, and at least several of those times will probably be massively entertaining. This habitat we're in right now is relatively nondescript. A lot of the trees are younger pines, not much rock. I do see some bigger rock coming up, I believe. But this immediate habitat's not super impressive. I think we're about to enter a series of kind of steep, deep cut ravines where over time water has worn quite the ravine into the earth, where, you know, rain happens, water flows from up the hill, down the hill, and just carves out these steep areas like the one we're about to hit. But those areas also tend to be where the rocks are. You can see there's some rock over there for sure. How good it will be, we'll know when we get there. I see a little bit of rock straight ahead of us too. I don't think we're quite to the temperatures where we could expect to see something sitting out, but I am hoping that at some point today we'll get some basking snake activity. And it's supposed to be cloudy all day, so I don't think we're ever gonna have an issue with it getting too hot. I might get too hot because I'm flipping rocks and it's humid, but I think it'll be the right temperatures for snakes most of the day. Rock's bigger than it looked. We are gonna be flipping a lot of tiny rocks like this today. You're probably gonna notice that I'm flipping a lot of rocks that I think many people would pass up. And that's mostly because there's just not a lot of good rocks here, so any rock is a good rock, relatively. Like that rock I would have been surprised to ever find anything under, but you never know. Another thing with rock flipping is you don't really know what the underside of the rock is going to look like until you flip it, so sometimes you'd be surprised. It's a nice little jumble. Sometimes you'd be surprised at just how much space can be under a rock as small as this one, for example. There's a black widow. Let's see if we can show her to you. I'm not sure if I'm gonna overlay like actual footage in this episode too, or if this will just be GoPro. I will film this girl with my camera real quick. Here's a closer look at this black widow before we let her run back under her rock. See how she's just balling up when I poke her with my snake hook? I just want her to go back under her rock, but she's gonna show us her hourglass. Very, very cool, very pretty animal. There you go, go back under your rock. There we go. All right, we're rolling again. First find of any note since we started. All right, now this is interesting. We've got a larger structure with this more boulder-sized rock we can't flip, with some smaller flippable rocks around it. This is always a promising setup. What we have next. This looks like a nice flat rock. Nothing under it. This one looks promising as well. This might be one of the better ones we've found today. Yep, and we got a big worm. He's like halfway down a hole. I don't want to squish him, but he also does not seem to want to... Oh, there we go. Worm. Back under your rock, Mr. Worm. I mean, he's like dried out. I don't know why this thing is so sad looking right now. Maybe because of the burn. We'll tuck him in the backside there. Even after the burn, we still have quite the wall of vegetation to navigate here, and this is mostly blackberry, so it's very, very hostile. Will stab you and grab you and make you want to cry. One of the most hostile plants around. And then in the summertime, they get covered in bugs that bite and sting. So not only is the plant itself hostile, but it's got hostile insect inhabitants as well. Man, I am really having a hard time right here. But this is the reality of herping, and that's kind of what I'm aiming to show you guys with this video. It's not always as fun and happy as it looks in my edited episodes. There's a lot of bushwhacking, a lot of suffering, and a lot of hours and hours and hours without finding anything. That is a lot of rock. I think it's probably even too much rock, but we're gonna kind of start over there and work that vein that direction. Let's see what happens. A lot of times I'll kind of nudge rocks with my foot before I try to flip them to see if they actually move. Like that one didn't budge, so probably not gonna flip. This one might flip. Did. Looked pretty good. You'll also see me kind of kick the rocks sometimes when I put them down, just to make sure they go back into their seat, because every rock that's actually movable kind of has, you can see that one's not really back in its seat at the moment, so we'll just kind of kick it around. Now it's back. Of course, we don't want to kick rocks that have things under them. That one's just got some ants. All right, this is kind of intriguing right here. We'll backtrack, but it's decent. Very, very nice, actually. All right, these are pretty good rocks, and they're piled up. So whenever you have rocks that are kind of, there's a slug just crawling around after the rain. But whenever you have rocks that are on top of other rocks, there will be more space underneath them, as opposed to if the rock was just sitting on dirt. And then whether or not there's space underneath it is more dependent on whether or not there's been rodents digging out tunnels or any kind of animal underneath it. It's pretty rattlesnakey looking. And this is the kind of morning rattlesnakes would be basking, I would hope. Especially as it starts to dry off and warm up ever so slightly from where we're at right now. No snakes under rocks yet, not too surprising considering where we're at, but Definitely a little disappointing. I was hoping that my issues here had been mostly due to the timing of when I'd been, but I don't think we could time it any better than today, because it's mid to late March now. This year it's been very cold, so it's definitely possible that the peak of when this would be a good strategy might be later in the year. I feel like I'm in New Mexico right now. So weird. This is going to be a good exercise in restraint, because you don't want to come into some steep habitat like this and just try to flip every rock, because you'll exhaust yourself pretty quickly. You'll also probably damage habitat, because not every rock that can be flipped should be flipped. Like this one, I can probably safely flip this one without it rolling down the mountain, but it's definitely in that kind of iffy zone. You can see this rock shifted under it and messed it up, so we have to make sure any of the rocks that shift go back as well, so that the original rock can go back. I do like this habitat though. I think this is potentially good for coral snakes. It's very, very steep. Not sure how that's going to affect. Oh, we have our first herp. Come here, buddy. That was a nice rock. We have a probably common 5-line skink. Let's see. Yeah, that's fasciatus. You can see that rock slipped back into place pretty perfectly. You guys will see the time in the video is roughly the amount of time I've been out here, minus any time I've had to cut the camera. But a very nice lizard. We'll put him back. Let's see. Should be able to get back under the rock right here. There we go. Debated carrying my snake hook today, but if we do start getting into any venomous snakes, we're going to be glad we have it. This does look like the kind of place that could have quite a few rattlesnakes. And we know there's a lot of them in this part of the state, this part of the Piedmont. It's pretty rattlesnakey. Could totally see a coral snake cruising along down there too. So I'm gonna try to keep an eye on that as I'm walking. I think we're still cool enough that anything is probably gonna be next to a hole or under something still. And this is just overwhelming, to say the least. That's a good problem to have. When the habitat's so good, you don't know where to go. Cap rock. It's quite the hole. Alright, this is getting a little extreme right here, so we might hoof it to the top. And then go that way a little more, as to not fall down a cliff just yet today. It's a little early to do that. We'll get to it though, I'm sure. This stuff over here looks kind of interesting as well. And we went from hardly any rocks to almost too many rocks, because I'm being pulled in multiple directions at the same time. If this rock flips, that might be money. Oh, it's It's moving a little bit, but remember what I said earlier, just because you can flip it doesn't mean you should. And I did flip it. Now can I get it back? Actually didn't move too far. There we go. Ta-da! All right. There's a lot going on here. A whole lot going on. There's suddenly tons of rocks, not many of which look flippable. I guess that's helpful. I don't have to worry about looking under all of them. Oh, a box turtle. Looks alive. Let's, it's not alive. That sucks. It's not too old either. You can see there's some meat in there. That's a bummer. Could be a casualty from the burn, but I think it's more likely it's a casualty from rhinovirus or some other pathogen. All right, first battery change of the day. Not sure what the timestamp's looking like, but that's about how long I get out of one GoPro battery. Not too bad, but also not quite where I would like it to be. There's definitely been a pretty big improvement from the previous models of GoPros though, which died pretty quickly. I feel like I get about an hour or so out of this one. Oh man, that was a nice rock. These blocky ones are almost better because I feel like they're better, at least, because they just have space under them. Like, look at that. There's room for an adult coral snake under that rock. But if we were to flip a flatter one like this, there's not necessarily that kind of space under there. Starting to feel like the temperature where we could maybe expect to see a snake out if we're going to. It's hard to really say some days if the weather is just not great for snakes to be basking or if they're just not basking for whatever other reason. Today there's a scorpion, a bunch of detritus. And try to get him out of there. Screw it. Okay, he's a stinger. Never mind. All right, go out back. I don't see him, but I'm guessing that means he kept going. Too deep. Let's see, like if I tried to flip that one, it would probably come down the hill and I would not be able to get it back. So we're just not going to. And that's fine. You don't have to flip every rock. You should flip as many as you can, but at some point you got to know your limit. Not only in size, but in how many rocks you have the energy to flip in a day. So looking under tiny ones that aren't in the best spots, sometimes you can overlook rocks. But like you could spend all day on this hillside and not flip every rock. So I'm mostly just scanning the habitat, flipping the rocks that I think are in the best positions and hoping we get lucky. Play the numbers game. Too big. Two on the ground. Perfect. Nothing under it. Huh. Being indecisive again. That's a beautiful, beautiful stump hole. There's a timber down in there somewhere. And if there isn't today, there probably has been, or will be. That was a nice rock. Couple of little spiders under there to put back gently. It seems like our habitat's kind of trending up the hill. There's not as much good rock down there now. Honestly, the better ones have been at the top. Or the ones that look better have been at the top. Kind of expect to see a timber rattlesnake today. Could be wrong about that, but I feel like we got the right weather and the right habitat to see one. It's burned. Check my map real quick. All right. It smells like smoke right here. It's not the best. I'm definitely sweating for the first time today. I don't know if there's even anything worth flipping right there. Quite the hole. Cap rock next to it. Oh, Webster salamander, look at that. On the cap rock. Big healthy Webster eye. Well, there's our first salamander of the day. Nice Webster salamander under this cap rock on top of another rock. It's about as big as these guys get. I'm gonna pull him out real quick so that I can put his rock back. There he goes. And you might be thinking this is kind of hostile habitat for a salamander. And you'd be right. Webster eye are hostile xeric ridge specialists. So they prefer and are pretty much endemic to a series of very dry, very unsalamander-like ridges. Then there's some weird coastal plain populations in Louisiana and I believe Mississippi too, but very cool salamanders. Hopefully we'll see more today. They can be pretty common in the right microhabitat. Kind of drawn between the stump holes and the rocky stuff. Look at this stump. And that is magnificent. Could totally be a big snake using that. We're getting to that point in the spring where snakes aren't necessarily going to be around stump holes too, because they've started to disperse from their overwintering sites, which does make my job a little bit more difficult. But it also means when we're more focused on flipping rocks, we could stumble across a snake at any point. It was a very coral snaky looking log. Whew. Flip back over here again. See what's going on. I like these burned logs. Burned logs are a little less prone to absorb too much moisture than unburned logs. Yes, we are zigzagging rather haphazardly right now, but I don't know how else to work this habitat because there's stuff over here I want to look at, stuff over there I want to look at. Jeez, I mean, that's what we like to see right there. Big hole, lots of different tiny holes, mediocre rocks. I'm sure there was a coral under one of those. I do really wonder how many rocks with something just obscene underneath them I've walked past because I just couldn't be bothered to bend over and look real quick. It's not even so much that, it's more of the accumulation of time spent not in good habitat that bothers me. Like, this is good habitat, but it's not really any different from the places I've gotten skunked out here, so trying to find habitat that stands out to me in some way or another from the places that I usually go and fail at finding coral snakes under rocks. That is a nice little rock structure there. And honestly, I feel like we have as good of a chance, if not a better chance, just seeing one crawling around today. All right, we got a double skin Sella. See if I can get both of these guys. Hey, what's up? There we go. Good food for our primary target, the eastern coral. All right, here's a closer look at these little ground skinks. Skincella lateralis, one of our most common vertebrates in Georgia. They're thought to be declining though, so I'm trying to take vouchers of all the ones I find so I can get a rough idea of how many I see each year. And then going forwards, if I start seeing less, it's a pretty good sign that they're actually declining. So take a photo of each, let them go, and we'll get back to it. Another thing worth noting, it seems like the skincella here are particularly dark. Like this one's almost solid black. That is a very, very atypically dark skincella. Come on, dude, under your log. He's pretty long too. You see, that would be a perfect snack for a young coral snake. Another skincella. Hey, buddy. Well, we're getting into a bunch of these all of a sudden. We found 3 in this little area. This guy's missing his tail, like perhaps a predator tried to get him at some point. All right. Vouchered those 3 skincella, and we're on to this series of stump holes. Big burnout pine stumps. Decent amount of better looking rock. Feel like this is maybe some of the better stuff we found today. That was beautiful, actually. Look at this. Oh, it's a molt. Never mind. I thought it was an adult scorpion. Just dangling. Just a molt. That stump hole is calling my name. These rocks are calling my name. Very, very ineffective rock replacement, but once again, that's why flipping rocks with the snake hook is not a good idea. You don't have a lot of control over them, especially bigger ones. Like these tiny ones, less of a problem. They're easy to put back with your hands. But I am definitely not a fan of flipping rocks with my snake hook, especially if they're bigger. Nice log. Not going to go too far off this edge because of how steep it is, and if I go down I have to come back up. I mean, I guess I don't have to come back up, but in order to get to where I want to go, I would. I kind of have a route for today planned out in my head. Whether or not we'll actually follow that route or how much we'll follow it, I don't know yet. That'll depend on if the habitat looks better or worse or continues at the same pace as it is now, because this stuff is pretty good. This is definitely, I like this more than a lot of the stuff we've been in today, especially since we're seeing skincella, and seeing any kind of small prey items should be a good thing, but at the same time, skincella are kind of omnipresent, so they're not probably not a really good indicator of anything. But it does make me feel better. And we know for a fact that coral snakes like to eat lizards and other snakes, so any evidence that there's a good food base for a coral snake on any given ridge or pile of rocks is just another reason for them to be in that specific area. And like I said earlier, when you're looking for rare snakes, it's really just eliminating as many variables as you can so that the odds are as close to in your favor as they can possibly be. Which, when it comes to looking for something like coral snakes in habitat, the odds are never going to be very high, but they can be higher than next to 0, which is what the odds would be if we were kicking around in a super grown-up area where I couldn't see anything, in bad weather, like a super hot day. A bunch of invertebrates under there. Another beautiful stump hole with seemingly nothing around it. A gopher tortoise burrow. Not actually, but sure is what it looks like. We are eventually just going to go over there. But I just wanted to follow this a little bit. There's definitely more UV coming in now than there has been all day. At some point, I'm either going to run out of water, run out of habitat, or I guess, get frustrated at not finding anything and decide to leave. And that will be the point I probably wrap this up. And then, of course, if we see anything later today... Oh, that's an absolute pile of Webster salamanders. There's 5 of them right there. Under this... Oh, there's another pile at the other end. Hold up. So this is ridiculous. We got 6 Websteri right there. There's one off to the side. And then down here, there's another like 4 or 5. 5, 6. There's another 6 down here. There's so many of them. What an awesome flip. And they're all beautiful. Look at those guys. Such pretty salamanders. Here's the other end one more time. I'm gonna have to pull all these guys out and put their log back, which is gonna be involved. Well, that was definitely the coolest find of the day so far. Just an absolute Websteri party. There were at least 12 under this burnt log. Pretty nuts. Here's a look at our habitat. Steep, relatively rocky, dry forest. All right. I'm guessing that was some kind of breeding congregation, because I mean, I guess it's possible that these logs are just the most moisture sealed. There's another 2 Websteri, 3 Websteri under this one. So maybe it is possible that these are just the best, most moist cover here. All right, one of them dipped, but there was another Websteri triple flip here, just under the next log over from that one. All right, this log is way bigger than the other ones that have had all the Websteri under them, so in theory that means it has to have more, right? There's none. See, this one is almost too wet. Like that, whatever's going on there, this is too much moisture for them. They like the sweet spot between completely dry and wet. Very, very strange, but fascinating salamanders. Well, that was not what I expected to happen. Oh, there's one Websteri. That's probably a big female. I don't know if females are bigger. I would assume they're bigger. All right, I'm gonna send her down this hole just so she's safe while I'm putting this back. This is just gonna have to sit there. Let's check this next one real quick. Could be another little Websteri party. That one also broke. Nothing under that half. Oh, one Websteri. All right, well, we found probably somewhere between 15 and 20 Websteri in this one little pocket, 12 of which were under one log. All right, there's a lot of holes and rock right here. Could be a good setup for rattlesnake. Does look like there's been some feral hog action here, which is very uncool, to say the least. Websteri? No, too dry. Too dry for the Websteri. What's going on here? Embedded rock. See, I would think those rocks would just be loaded with Websters, but honestly, I seldom see them under rocks. They're usually under embedded charred logs. Like that rock was flipped over by a hog. It was not well weathered. Really, feral hogs are about the last thing you want to see when you're looking for a very terrestrial snake species, like a coral snake or a hognose. because they make for very easy food. They're always on the ground. And hogs have very good sniffers. She got bit by a fire ant. Awesome. What's going on here? Nothing. Nothing going on. Nothing going on. Ow. Run into a bush real quick. Looks kind of promising. Nothing. All right. We carry on. This is intriguing. Leaner. Not much going on. It's quite the hole. Bark is a little tight to really peek behind. Tends to be the case in burned areas. A lot of times the fire either adheres the bark to the tree when it melts the sap, or it either burns the bark off entirely. So this is a very, very interesting stump hole. There's a Webster eye inside this log. He fell, but he was in that crack. There's two. At least two. Get a picture. Well, we're finding salamanders now in large quantities. Surprisingly large quantities, although it did rain a lot last night. Alright, that's kind of like a floodplain. But we do have some rocky stuff. Ow. Doesn't look that great though. Kind of mediocre rocks. Decent stumps. This looks like a nice rock. Look at this. A leaner and a cap rock. Well, rock on rock, not a true cap rock. That should have had a snake under it. Something. That's what's really just so frustrating about this spot is I feel like I should at least be flipping ringnecks or something, and it just never has anything under rocks. We have some junk. Doesn't look like useful junk. It's like an old deer stand. Oh, there's a piece of tin right there though. Useful junk. Let's see what's going on. What is this? Or like an old vending machine. Insert money below. Let's see if there's anything under it. Not really. It's not even actually particularly flippable. That's cool though. It's always cool finding old junk in the woods like this. Is this a little wetland? Kinda. It's trying to be an ephemeral wetland. There might be some water over here. There is some water. That's neat. Bigger than I thought it was. We got a pretty big wetland right here. I don't know. I mostly wanted to do the wetland stuff on the way back, if at all. but we're not having any luck up there, so this might be our only chance at seeing snakes today. Actually, that's not true, because we're going to leave here and go flip 10. Depending, I guess, on how long we're here. Oh, racer. There we go. I was just looking at my map. I glance up and we have our first snake of the day, finally. Just chilling. A voucher shot. Alright, it's around noon and we've just now gotten our first snake of the day. A very healthy black racer sitting out basking. Almost thought it was a hognose for a second. Very nice. We'll probably just leave that guy right there. He's chilling. Hopefully this rocky habitat here will produce a couple more snakes. Maybe we're getting into another Webster eye pocket. I do worry that maybe we're just getting into a not good habitat pocket again. There's some nice stumps over here. And some nice rocks, maybe. That is a very nice stump. Ooh. I want a good stump snake. It's not raining anymore. It's humid. It's perfect weather for somebody to come out of their stump and sit. Oh, we got some very good looking rock here. If that's flat, and we'll flip, at least. What's going on? The weird thing is, even after all that rain last night, the underside of the actual rocks is dry. Look at that. Might be some flippable cap rock action going on right there. There's a green anole. See if we can get him to come out the front. Come on. Okay, he went down the crack. Just didn't want to squish him. Not many lizards today. That might even be the first one. Oh no, it's not. I'm dumb. I forgot about all the skinks. That might be the first anole though. I don't remember any other anoles. I do like this little spot a lot. I wish it would prove its value because it just looks so good compared to a lot of the other stuff we've been in today. It just didn't look great. This rock is definitely bigger. Okay, we'll put that back in a second. This rock is bigger than it looks, and I'm afraid it's not gonna flip. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. That's a bummer. What about this one? These are all bigger than they look, I guess. That one wasn't. All right, there's definitely some decent rock on this hillside, and it looks like it mostly continues, so we'll follow along a little bit. Maybe we get lucky, find a magic rock pile. I do have a feeling that's what it's going to take. It's going to take finding that magic rock pile. And then, maybe once I do find the rock pile, it'll produce with consistency. Or maybe it's just a numbers game. But I feel like it's mostly a bad rock game. All right, here's another big rock pile. Cannot say how good they're gonna be yet, but man, you would think you could only look at so many stumps that nice before one of them has a snake in it. A lot of bigger rocks. I don't see any obvious baskers. That's one thing you want to do when you approach a rock pile, is always make sure there's nothing basking and the rocks you're about to be flipping. Because what you don't want to do is slowly slink up on a timber rattlesnake you don't see because you're tunnel vision looking at rocks. Granted, timber rattlesnakes are usually very forgiving compared to some other rattlesnakes, but still do not want to get too close to one on accident because we're focused on looking at rocks for flipping rather than rocks where a snake might be basking. Oh, here's a fence lizard. This is what it looks like when a fence lizard is not active and is pretty much sleeping. They'll half bury themselves in the duff like this. And you can see he's very much alive. Maybe a she. He's got a little bit of blue. I don't know if that's a female with a little bit of blue or a male with very little blue at all. Either way, first fence lizard of the day. I like the morning rain and then it stops raining. I don't like it when it just persistently rains throughout the day, at least this early. We get to April and May and I'll be begging for it to rain every day. What is going on here? There's definitely a mucky seepage type beat going on. You all know how I feel about mucky seepages and the things that live in them. Oh man, that is textbook mud salamander habitat. That's probably the best looking mud salamander habitat I've ever seen in the Georgia Piedmont. I mean, this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I don't know if we'd ever have a chance of really realistically finding one or if they'd even be here, but I have to poke around a little bit. See, there's not really an abundance of logs to flip, which tends to be the biggest issue for me when looking for mud salamanders. I always feel like I find good habitat, but there's just never anything to flip. Without stuff to look for them under, it can be difficult to find them. We will see. Now that I know this is here, I can always come back in the winter and really explore it a little more extensively. We're gonna explore it a little bit right now. Let's see what it's all about. There could always be a snake down here too. I'd be a little more surprised, but this is almost kind of place you could see a timber, at least in the coastal plain. There's a lot of bay trees in here. I've talked about those before. I'm not sure what species. This has got to be hog damage. Like, that log is not where it's supposed to be. Which is not what you want. I've said it already once today. Not what you want to be seeing when looking for anything terrestrial. They are one of the biggest ruiners of habitat in Georgia. It's not out of the question there could be cottonmouths in this stuff. I haven't seen them. in this area, but it does look like a poop. Looks like the kind of place that would have cottons. And it just gets better. Problem with this kind of habitat is you never know when your next step is going to send you into the water, because the mud is unstable. Some decent looking logs on that side, but we'll try to come back up that side. Go down this side. It's always worth taking whatever steps you can to be as thorough as possible, in my opinion. But at the same time, you don't want to be so thorough that you don't cover any ground. And that's just general, unsolicited herping advice. Wow, this is so cool. It's like the whole planet is just turning into a seepage right here. And there's not a lot of bigger logs to flip, but most of these logs do flip. They're just tiny, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Like this is, I am on a slope, like there's a noticeable grade here, and it's just seepage. Like this is really cool and really mud salamandery. I just don't want to hit a deep pocket and then not be able to find my way back the way I came. Man, I've never seen a spot in the Piedmont and been this confident in mud salamanders being there. And I could be completely wrong about that. That would probably take 2 people to flip. I'm not gonna do it. What, just a strange wetland. It's just a never-ending seepage. Never ends. Certainly ends up here somewhere when it dumps out into that creek, but we can pretend that it just goes on forever and is too extensive of habitat to ever have a chance at finding such a small salamander in, right? It's not a skill issue. All right, that's not flipping. I wonder if these swampy stumps are cane breaky, or if the canes here prefer the rock stuff. I would guess they're on the rocky stuff. But man, this is so weird. This is going to be a very long, boring clip of me rambling about how cool this wetland is. But if there's a salamander, what is this? A desmog? It is a desmog. Hey, all right, well, he left. Unless I can get him right here, which I can't. That was prolapsus, probably, in this habitat. That should have had a mud. Y'all tired of me saying that should have had a mud? That should have had a coral? Because this is what I do on a daily basis. I walk around and am disappointed at the lack of what I'm looking for under the thing I have just looked under. Alright guys, for the sake of the space on my GoPro and the rest of the day, I am probably going to wrap up this uncut part of the day here. Hopefully the wind is not messing up my audio too bad right now. It is picking up quite a bit. And honestly, I might be ready to go flip some tin. I'm feeling pretty defeated after the last few hours, but hopefully you guys found it interesting to see what it's like herping with me without a bunch of cuts to cooler finds. It's pretty much what it's like on a live stream, except for we tend to see more on live streams because I'm doing them in snakier areas. But the idea here is that this will be like a live stream that has higher quality, and unfortunately there isn't a live chat, but you do get to see kind of a more uncut herping experience than in one of my normal episodes. So otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this format. I can definitely do more of it. It's very easy to just not edit my video, although I do suspect it's going to take me a while to edit this one anyways, just because it is so long. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.